When we talk about building a strong, resilient body, most people think they need an arsenal of gym equipment, a long checklist of exercises, and hours in the weight room. But the truth is, if you understand how the nervous system controls movement and strength, you start to see something surprising. 2 core exercises, properly selected and executed, can drive the majority of your strength gains. Core strength begins with spinal stability, not visible abs. This truth is often overshadowed by the allure of aesthetics, the six-pack, the shredded midsection, the mirror test. But what you see is not what keeps you standing tall when life demands strength. What holds you up, protects your organs, anchors your limbs, and communicates with your brain about every move you make, is deep. It's silent and it's sacred. The spine is not just a stack of bones. It is the holy conduit of movement and resilience. Wrapped around it is a system designed not for vanity, but for survival. Transverse abdominis, multifidus, diaphragm, and pelvic floor. This is the true core. These muscles don't show up in selfies. They don't make noise on Instagram, but they are the foundation from which all strength radiates. When they are weak, the body compensates with tension, pain, and breakdown. But when they are strong, when they are activated with intention and consistency, the body aligns. Nervous system lights up. You move with power, with clarity, with divine control. Spinal stability is not just about the body. It is a reflection of the mind. The ability to hold the spine in neutral alignment under pressure mirrors the ability to hold focus under stress. The muscles that protect your spine are also the ones that allow you to breathe deeply when the world feels like it's closing in. The body is not separate from the soul, and when the core is trained for stability, not just for looks, it teaches you how to endure, how to adapt, and how to remain unshaken. We've been misled by fitness culture to chase tension in the wrong places. Crunches, sit-ups, endless reps that shorten the breath and disconnect the brain. Real strength is quiet. It's in the isometric holds, bracing under load, the full body engagement where nothing is wasted. True core training activates the diaphragm first because breath is life, and the diaphragm is the gateway. With each breath, pressure builds within the abdominal cavity, sending a message to the brain. We are secure, we are anchored, we are ready. The spine senses this pressure through receptors deep in its structure. This feedback loop between breath, muscle, and mind creates an internal environment that favors strength over strain, control over chaos, and it all begins before the first rep. Before the movement begins, the breath sets the tone, the spine prepares, the stabilizers awaken, and from there, strength flows. This is not fitness, this is discipline. It is reverence for the architecture of your own body. It is choosing to build from the inside out, not just for performance, but for presence. Because when the core is stable, the body moves as one. There is unity, there is intention, there is power that cannot be seen, but can be felt deeply through every step, every lift, every challenge that dares to test your foundation. The brain prioritizes movements that protect the spine and regulate breathing. This is not a theory, it's a law of the human system, etched into your neurology, woven into your survival. Long before you could lift, run, or even walk, your nervous system was mapping patterns to preserve the integrity of your spine. That central column, that sacred axis, it is the gateway through which all motor commands are issued and received. The brain does not waste effort on movements that compromise it. Instead, it channels energy toward patterns that shield it, fortify it, and ensure its continuity when you move. Your brain doesn't just ask, "Can this be done?" It asks, "Is this safe for the spine?" And if the answer is no, your system compensates. Compensation may not feel wrong at first, but over time it becomes dysfunction. Tight hips, rounded shoulders, shallow breath, fatigue masked as effort. You are not failing because you're weak. You're failing because your brain senses instability and pulls the brakes. It is doing its job, and if you don't train in alignment with this primal hierarchy, if you bypass the spine to chase performance or speed, you are building on sand. True strength arises when the spine is respected as the center of all movement, and that respect begins with breath. Deep, controlled, diaphragmatic breathing does more than calm the mind. It creates abdominal pressure, a natural brace that signals to the brain. We are supported, we are stable. That signal opens the door for the nervous system to permit force production, joint loading, acceleration. The breath is not accessory, it is command. It tells your brain whether you're in danger or in control. This is why some of the most powerful movements don't look explosive. A well-executed dead bug or plank, performed with spinal awareness and precise. Breath activates more neural circuitry than a mindless sprint. The brain responds not to flash but to feedback. It listens for integrity when you move in ways that honor the spine's position and the body's need to breathe freely. The brain rewards you with strength, fluidity, and resilience. Think about that. Your brain is watching your spine like a guardian. It is scanning for misalignment, instability, threat, and when it detects those things, it down-regulates performance. But when it senses activation of the deep core synchronized with breath, it gives you access to something rare. Integrated power. This is not brute force. This is not tension for its own sake. This is the kind of strength that radiates from the inside out, governed by the intelligence of your own biology. You don't need to guess. You don't need to imitate. You need to align. Movement with breath, breath with stability, stability with intention. That's when the brain unlocks its full capacity. That's when the body begins to move as it was designed to move, in harmony, in strength, in unwavering protection of its core. Diaphragmatic control is central to core engagement and performance. The diaphragm is not just a breathing muscle, it is the foundation of internal stability. It is the intersection where breath becomes power, where oxygen becomes structure, and where the nervous system finds its sense of safety. When the diaphragm is activated with precision, it does more than fill the lungs. It pressurizes the entire core, creating a stable base from which all movement can emerge. Without it, strength is superficial. With it, strength is anchored in something deeper, more intelligent, more enduring. Most people breathe shallowly from the chest. It's fast, reactive, and inefficient. It keeps the nervous system in a constant state of alert, a quiet hum of tension under every task. But when you shift the breath down into the diaphragm, when you draw air deep into the belly and expand the ribs laterally, you're telling the body and brain, we are grounded, we are ready, we are in control. This kind of breath doesn't just supply oxygen, it generates pressure, and pressure is what stabilizes the spine. Intra-abdominal pressure is a protective force. It surrounds the lumbar spine like a hydraulic brace, supporting every lift, every twist, every step. When the diaphragm contracts downward on the inhale, it creates this pressure, subtle, invisible, yet profoundly powerful. And here's what most people miss. This pressure is the prerequisite for efficient movement. Without it, the brain senses fragility and limits output. With it, the brain permits power. It's not about strength in isolation, it's about strength that the brain trusts. Athletes who understand this move differently. They don't just lift heavier, they move cleaner. Their bodies operate as a unit. Their joints are protected. Their breath is synchronized with every rep, every rotation, every strike. You don't need to be an elite performer to access this. You need awareness. You need to retrain the breath to support the core, not as an afterthought, but as the first step in every movement. Pattern. Every time you inhale through the nose, expand the belly and ribs, and brace without rigidity, you're building a connection between the respiratory system and the musculoskeletal system. You're teaching the nervous system that stability is present. That kind of message has downstream effects: improved posture, sharper focus, quicker recovery. Even cognitive function rises because a stable spine allows a more efficient allocation of neural resources. Diaphragmatic control is not optional. It is essential. It is what separates a body that moves well from a body that leaks energy. It is what allows you to generate force without sacrificing structure, and it is trainable. With every deliberate breath, you reinforce a pattern. You carve out a neural path that the body will follow under load, under stress, under pressure. You become more than strong. You become centered, breath by breath, brace by brace, foundation before function. Compound core exercises drive neuroplasticity through coordinated effort. This is where strength becomes intelligence, where physical movement reshapes the brain. Every time you perform a complex, multi-joint exercise that engages the core under load, you are not just training muscles. You are training the nervous system to fire faster, more precisely, and more efficiently. These movements are conversations between the body and brain, rich, dynamic, and demanding, and every repetition is a signal that carves deeper pathways into the cortex, wiring in control, balance, and resilience. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to adapt, to change, to grow, and it does not respond passively. It requires stimulus, real, challenging, coordinated stimulus. Isolation exercises do not provide this. They target one area in simplicity with minimal input required, but compound core exercises like carries, deadlifts, anti-rotational movements demand full body integration. They pull from the spinal stabilizers, the hips, the shoulders, the breath. They force the brain to map multiple inputs simultaneously, to calibrate effort in real time, to remain present in the fire of tension. These movements are neurologically dense. That means they create high demand and, in return, high adaptation. When the body is forced to maintain posture, resist rotation, and generate force through a stable core, the brain must recruit deep motor units, engage balance systems, and process sensory feedback from muscles, joints, and fascia. That feedback is fuel. It's data the brain uses to refine performance, reduce risk, and expand capacity. This is how strength translates into skill, not just brute output, but refined, precise control under pressure. Think of the brain like a command center that prioritizes efficiency. If a movement can be stabilized and executed with minimal risk, the brain will invest more energy into it. But if the core is unstable, if spinal alignment is compromised, the brain holds back. It inhibits output. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. The nervous system is not designed for aesthetics. It is designed for survival, and it rewards movements that enhance stability, improve feedback, and honor the body's architecture. Compound core work is also a pathway to cognitive resilience. The coordination required to brace, breathe, and move under load activates not just motor circuits, but prefrontal regions tied to focus, planning, and regulation. This is why real strength training sharpens the mind. You are not zoning out, you are zoning in. Your attention is forced into alignment with your movement. That demand for presence strengthens the very circuits that help you stay composed, adaptable, and clear, headed in high-stress situations both in the gym and in life. This is why complexity matters, not randomness, not novelty for its own sake, but intelligent complexity rooted in purpose, movement that respects the laws of physics and physiology, movements that challenge the brain to connect breath with structure, tension with relaxation, load with control. Because when your training demands integration, your nervous system responds with adaptation. And that adaptation doesn't just change your body, it transforms your BR. Less variety, more consistency. Adaptation follows focused repetition. In a world addicted to novelty, where every workout promises something new, the truth remains unmoved. Your body, your nervous system, your brain crave mastery over stimulation. They do not grow from chaos. They grow from pattern, from deliberate exposure to the same stimulus, refined again and again until it becomes ingrained, until it becomes automatic, efficient, powerful. The temptation to switch exercises constantly is strong. We're conditioned to chase variety, to avoid boredom, to assume that more means better, but the nervous system does not adapt to confusion. It adapts to precision. When you return to the same movement, the same breath pattern, the same neural demand over time, you allow your brain to fine-tune. You give your motor cortex the chance to reinforce efficiency. Each rep becomes not just physical, it becomes a neurological rehearsal, burning the pathway deeper, strengthening the connection between intent and execution. Consistency is not monotony, it is reverence. It is a commitment to depth over distraction. A farmer does not plant different seeds every day and hope for a harvest. He plants with purpose, waters with discipline, and waits for roots to grow. Your training is no different. Focused repetition allows the body to explore subtleties: angle, breath, timing, pressure. You don't just get stronger, you get better. You develop control that doesn't fade under fatigue. You develop presence that doesn't break under stress. The nervous system tracks everything: joint angles, bracing strategies, load, velocity, and breath. It maps movement with extraordinary sensitivity, but it needs consistency to recognize patterns. Without repetition, there is no signal strong enough to provoke change. Without familiarity, there is no platform for intensity. You cannot train hard well. You have not first trained well. That is why the greats don't need hundreds of exercises. They need a few done with unwavering presence, repeated until the body and mind move as one. This principle applies beyond the gym. The brain learns through experience, and deep learning comes through doing not once, but over and over with awareness, whether it's mastering a deadlift or mastering your own emotional response. Change begins in repetition, and the more focused the repetition, the more profound the adaptation. This is how you train not just for strength, but for command, for control under load, under pressure, under life. Variety has its place when it serves a purpose, when it solves a problem, when it refines a weakness. But variety without mastery is noise. It scatters your attention, dilutes your effort, and fragments your growth. The body was built to adapt, but it does so when it is given clarity, when it is given the same signal over time, with increasing precision and intensity. That is how tissue remodels. That is how coordination sharpens. That is how the nervous system says, yes, this matters, let's evolve. True core training improves posture, cognition, and stress resilience. This is not a metaphor, it is biological reality. The spine is more than a structural pillar, it is a channel through which the nervous system speaks. When your core stabilizers are active and engaged, they don't just hold you upright. They signal safety to the brain, and safety is the key to unlocking higher function. A stable spine tells your system, we are supported, we are grounded, we are free to focus. Without that, the brain shifts into defense, posture collapses, thoughts scatter, stress takes the wheel. Posture is not about standing straight. It's about neural readiness. When the core is weak, the body collapses inward. Shoulders roll, breath shortens, the head juts forward. These are not just physical distortions. They are signals to the brain that something is off, and the brain responds accordingly. Cortisol rises, attention narrows, emotional regulation falters. But when the core is trained to support the spine, the system shifts, the rib cage opens, the breath deepens, the visual field widens. The body becomes a vessel of clarity, not chaos. Cognition is intimately tied to movement. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for focus, decision making, and self-control, relies on sensory input from the body to function at full capacity. Core training that demands stability under load, breath control, and alignment sends rich sensory feedback into that system. It sharpens, it organizes, it prepares. Your thoughts don't just become clearer. You become better at directing them. The discipline of moving with intention builds the architecture for thinking with intention. Stress resilience begins at the foundation. When the core is weak, the body becomes reactive. It cannot anchor itself against the forces of life, but a strong, stable core absorbs tension and dissipates it. It allows you to breathe deeply under pressure, literally and metaphorically. The diaphragm moves freely, the rib cage expands, and the parasympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for calm and recovery, activates. You are no longer drowning in stress signals. You are managing them, shaping them, transforming them into fuel. This is the power of true core work, not just flexion or fatigue, but connection. It teaches you how to hold yourself, not just in space, but in life. It is posture that reflects inner steadiness. It is cognition that stems from clarity in the body. It is resilience not as a concept, but as a lived, practiced state. The breath becomes your anchor. The spine becomes your guide. Mind becomes your ally. And it all begins where few people look, deep in the core, where strength is silent but sovereign.